Okay, so this session's business environment, so we're looking at the economy today. This is probably one of the hardest topics you are going to study throughout these 2 semesters. So what I've tried to do is structure it as much as possible. So you've got a couple of handouts. You've got one which is kind of a kind of structured note-taking, and you've got the other one which is some of my key slides. We need to move on to look at the economy because we've looked at the internal workings of a business, the functional areas, strategic planning, different types of ownership, stakeholders. But as we identified in the PESTLE, you've got the external environment has a major impact on how the business operates. Please, boy. So we need to look at the impact that the economy has on businesses in particular. So before we even start, what is the economy? What does the word mean?
So that's run by the government.
So it's run by the government.
So the
sort of
country's
like
money.
the NHS, like
Okay.
the NHS, the economy, like.
Okay, it's definitely to do with money. Definitely.
It's to do with the government.
The government influences the economy, doesn't run the economy.
It's a message.
It's a big part of it. It's a big part of it. It doesn't run the economy, but they play a huge part. What the government do is they manipulate the economy, for want of a better word. What did you say, Daisy? I heard your voice. I definitely heard your voice. What is the economy? Tell me anything that you remember of the economy. What does the word mean?
I can't think of it.
No? I guarantee you've all heard of the word, haven't you? You've all heard of the word. Yeah?
Yeah.
Issues
I
and
don't know
matters.
how to
Okay.
quite
If I put a gun to your head and said, tell me what the economy is, you'd all have an idea of it, wouldn't you? Pardon? So it runs the country.
Yeah.
What's the Moses? What are you doing? Your phone. Your phone. When I just said this is a really important topic, it's really important you pay attention. I think I'll just get my phone out. It's ridiculous.
Is there the like influences surrounding the call it the credit crunch and stuff like that?
Okay. That's going to play a huge part in the assignment. What's the economy, Sam? Tell me anything, a word. Like I say, gun to your head, I say economy, you say... What was that? Were you going to say something then? No?
Not really.
Go on.
And like everything that you buy and that, it's like everything goes up. Like, so say like when all the banks collapse and that put price up on things like inflation,
Right.
and then everything costs more to people. And then like when it gets better, then things can go down and money's like worth more.
Okay, there's quite a lot there. Talks about prices going up and down.
That like recession, you get like 2 negative consecutive quarters.
See, things you do know this. Some of you guys, you do know that. That's exactly right. We'll come on to that in a second. But yeah, recession. What's the economy, you two?
I don't know, I'd say money.
Money. Okay, we've got that one. Money's on the board already. Something else.
I'm dead now, so.
Pardon?
Should be one out, I don't know.
There must be another word you can think of.
Because I mentioned about employment, like
What would you say, Emma? Anything to add?
Maybe health services.
Come into it. I'll come into it.
Is it like management of resources?
Sorry?
Management of resources.
Okay. What you've got in front of you is a kind of, like I say, a structured note-taking. What I want to do is I will talk through this in roughly the order that it says there. But if I miss out a huge bit, then do give me a shout. We've got quite a lot of information there, quite a lot of words. Some of which, I mean, you've probably all heard of inflation, but you maybe know what it means, you maybe not know what it means. That's something we're going to come on to. The economy is basically the exchange of goods and services for money. That the exchange, the growth in the economy, the exchange of goods and services within the economy, and the way it is measured is in GDP, gross domestic product. Yeah. GDP is gross domestic product. So what we're going to look at today in particular is how does GDP affect or create what's known as the economic cycle. So you mentioned recession. What's the opposite of recession? High growth or boom? Boom and bust. So GDP is gross domestic product. We're going to look at how it affects and creates the economic cycle. We're going to look at what's known as fiscal and monetary policy. Now, when I first identified the government played a huge part in the economy, this is how they play their part, by defining fiscal and monetary policy. And what I'm going to do is go through those in a bit more detail and really identify the tools the government have at their disposal and the impact those tools have. And then look at inflation and the impact that can have on us as consumers, and then directly and indirectly on businesses. Okay? Right. So GDP. This is the equation down the bottom for GDP. I'm going to talk you through it. You do need to know this, but I'm going to talk you through it. Alright? So GDP equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Now that's probably gibberish at the moment, I would have thought. Yeah. Some of you may be that you've studied this before, that may, kind of the cogs might turn slightly, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But it's one of those things that you just need to be aware of. GDP is this. Okay? It's the output of all businesses within one particular economy. And that's how we measure growth. That's how we measure how good or bad the economy is doing, via GDP. Gross domestic product. So like I say, it means it's the output of every business, all added together. And that will give you an amount in billions or hundreds of millions or however many. Okay? You write this down as we're going? I've got a spare pen. Why waste? We can't live
No,
up.
because I was going to wait till it later.
It's red.
Okay, so what this means. So GDP is a total of C, consumer spending.
Well, that's what
GDP is a total all combined of, the equation means C stands for consumer spending. I stands for investment. G stands for government spending. Government spending, yeah. And then that's plus exports minus imports.
But it's an M.
Yeah, because if you add I twice, you'll get confused between investment and imports, won't you?
What do you think?
Because it's the second letter of import.
So that affects the balance of payments.
What's X
Yeah,
minus
we'll come on
M?
to that.
What minus import?
Exports minus imports. There's a lot of terminology to do with the economy, a lot of it. And with this assignment, it's quite an awkward one because it's one pass criteria and one merit to prove you know pretty much about the economy. So what we've got to do is we've got to kind of scratch the surface of a lot of topics. Rather than going into anyone in huge amounts of detail, it's about scratching the surface of a lot of topics. What are exports, Berfin? What's an export?
Something to the country.
Exports are where we sell products to other countries, aren't they? So exports, we're selling products to other countries.
I say our country's more for service, not really like our service is more exports, because obviously things that are imported from foreign countries because we are service-based.
Yeah, exactly. We'll come on to what Daisy mentioned in a set was for the balance of payments, but what you should need to know at the moment is exports, that is us selling products and services to other countries. Imports, well, it's the opposite. It's us buying products and services from other countries. Can anyone say, just at this early stage, what's better for the economy? Is it better that exports are greater than imports, or imports are greater than exports? What would make the economy better?
Exports because you get more money from other countries rather than buying those stuff from other countries.
Exactly that. Exactly that. You think it's all money. It's all money coming into and money leaving. So that's why it's X minus M. Because you want your exports to be higher than your imports. Because you want more money coming into the economy than money leaving the economy. Known as the balance of payments. But just that explains the equation. Okay. What this is here, this graph shows, it's a really, really basic kind of, you know, when we looked at the product life cycle.
I don't think
We
we have.
haven't, have we? Well, when we do it, you get graphs that are kind of example graphs, and this is your kind of stereotypical boom and bust. This is what's known as the economic cycle. So again, this is something you will have to put into your work. The economic cycle tracks GDP through time. So what you've got here is a period of high growth. That's a period known as boom. So that's when your peak. That's when the economy's at its peak. It's performing efficiently. It's huge amounts of growth. Unemployment's low. That's when the economy's doing very, very well. However, this cannot happen. This cannot continue forever, which is one of the things we'll look at why. But this cannot just happen forever. So what happens is, because of government fiscal and monetary policy, we start to slide into bust or recession. Now, Jodie said at the start about the credit crunch. Each recession has its own name. And the last recession was known as the credit crunch. So when you hear the credit crunch, the term bands around. It's kind of left popular discussion now, because we are moving out of it. But the credit crunch is just a form of recession. Definition of recession?
2 consecutive quarters of negative growth.
Okay. Two consecutive, because it's important. Definition of recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. That is the quarters. What I mean by quarter is a quarter of a year. Yeah.
You say it one more time?
Yeah, it's fine. No, of course it is it's quite a mouthful, isn't it? 2 consecutive quarters.
Yeah.
Why sometimes you think they couldn't just say 6 months, could they? How simple would that be? It's the same, isn't it? 6 months is the same as 2 consecutive quarters. Anyway, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP.
What is it all you need for it to go bust?
To be classed as a recession.
Yeah.
Have you heard the term double dip recession? May have heard that in the news. It's when you're coming out of recession and you're doing well, but then you have, say, 6 months where it's minus 0.1 or minus 0.2, and that's classed as a recession. But it's not here. It's just a little kind of. Imagine going up here. It might be a little. That's like your double dip recession. So 2 consecutive quarters, negative GDP. See, this is actually the chart. This is our GDP. If you look from 2000 to now, 2012. So you can see it's nowhere near as dramatic as that roller coaster you saw on the previous slide.
What happened to Japan? Something meant we're going to Japan and like loads of economic.
They're expanding very quickly. If you expand too fast, the higher the peak, the lower the trough. So if you're expanding too fast, then you're going to the bubble will pop. And those of you may have heard of the dot-com boom, the bubble that burst. No, we're going to look at that as we talked about the credit crunch as one case study, the dot-com boom, and then the bust afterwards is the other case study that we're going to compare when we look at the economy. So you can see it's nowhere near as dramatic. Look here. You go down, 2009, 2010. What happened then?
Credit
crunch. Yeah. So all that's showing you is the credit crunch. And you'll notice that normally your periods of growth go on a lot longer than your periods of bust or recession. Even though how huge the impact was, still really didn't last that long. You can just see there and there are those double dip recessions. that the news talk about. Those little blips. So we're increasing, but then we have a quick bad 6 months, then we're increasing again. So it doesn't have a major impact like this does, but it's still, in terms of definition of recession, it's still a recession, still a period of recession. Right. This is where it starts to get a little more complicated, because the main influences on our boom and our bust, where we are within the economy, is this and this. Fiscal and monetary policy. What's first on your sheet? It's fiscal policy. Okay. What the government are trying to do, as far as they can, is regulate. So what the government want, if you look at your sheet, I think there's some government objectives on the other handout. You look at the government objectives. Full employment or low unemployment, price stability, high but sustainable growth, balance of payments and equilibrium. Have those in mind when I start to talk through these policies. Because what I'm hoping you'll see is the economy is a seesaw. And if you change one thing, it can tip the other way over. And that plunges the whole economy into a period of bust. So what the government are doing is literally changing each side. They're manipulating to keep it growing steadily. They get it wrong, and that's when you go down.
That was in America in the 1950s. They had loads of money, didn't they? And they because everyone was buying fridges and cars and stuff. They overproduced anything, and they had nothing there, and they ended up spending tons of money on it.
What you've got is it's all to do with confidence half the time. If people are confident, then they'll take out loans, they'll spend money. If people aren't confident, they're not taking out loans, they're not buying a house. Well, if we're not buying houses, well then what about these poor builders? They haven't got a job, have they? They haven't got a job. All the places they spend money, they can't spend their money. And what you think of is the government are trying to do it like a seesaw, but the economy is like dominoes. Every single little thing has a knock-on effect to the next. So, the tools that the government have got at their disposal. So their fiscal policy surrounds taxation and government spending. The easiest one to get your head around is government spending. What do the government spend money on?
Holidays. Oh.
What?
I was on about the actual men. They spend it on holidays.
No, not him particularly. I mean the government as a whole. What do the government spend on? NHS, transportation, public services, education.
Fine.
Yeah. Benefits. Right, everything. Anything that we pay, basically, we pay our taxes to contribute to, they spend money on. So if they're spending more money, that means we either have, as an economy, have more money, or it's better. So there's better roads, so we can get to places more easily. There's a new bridge built, so we can cross that and we can spend money there. If they're spending more money in the NHS, we get a better quality of service. Benefits us as consumers. Spending money on education, you'll get a better education, so you should be able to get a better job, more money.
But if money is ploughed into education, would then we have to cut it from midwifery from NHS then?
Yeah. They need to get they need to balance where they spend. Where do they get their money from? This is one of the good ways of thinking. Where do they get their money from?
Yeah.
Oil.
Us.
Taxation. All the money, all their government spending comes from either taxation or borrowing. Think of the debt, government debt, but focus on. So if they're giving out more benefits, they're increasing spending on education, but they're then taxing you more. So you start to think, well, this is better, but I'm paying more. So you can see straight away there's a circular flow of money going around. Different forms of taxation. What are there? How many are there? Well, there's loads, but what are the main forms of taxation?
Like when you just buy stuff and it's got tax on it, and
What's
a
that?
certain amount of it
Is
goes.
it car tax?
VAT. included?
VAT. Okay. Stands for
I got a clue.
Value added tax.
value added tax. This is a really important one. It's a tax on consumer spending. If you don't spend, you don't pay it. You pay VAT on everything except food, basic drink and baby clothes. Everything else you pay VAT on. At what percent?
2.
20%.
Oh.
So everything you buy, it's crazy, isn't it?
What do you have to pay?
So
20% more of what it would have been, or 20%?
It's incorporated into the price.
Yeah, yeah.
It's incorporated. Buy a £500 TV, £100 of that, it's gone.
When I
Goes
went
to
to
government.
America, they tell you how much tax you need.
Some places, You go to who goes to Macro or shops in Macro?
Oh, yeah.
You've seen the prices don't include VAT.
Yeah.
It's annoying that you get to till and then you don't work it out right, do you? You get to till and then crank. But it's because businesses don't pay VAT. And the idea of Macro is it's business people shop there. So that's why the price isn't there. And VAT, like I say, is a tax on spending. So let me ask you a question. Then. Government needs to raise more money for government spending. What happens if they increase VAT?
Those are binding.
So we're going to spend less, aren't we? If we spend less, how does that affect a business?
Less income.
Less income. How does that then affect unemployment?
They can't afford to pay their employees.
It can't affect to pay their employees, so there's more unemployment. If there's more unemployment, the economy got more or less money? Less money. So if there's less money, are we spending less or more on products? Less. So more people are unemployed. You see how it cycles round? This is what I talk about, that domino effect. One thing knocks onto the next, Obviously this all takes time, but that's the process you've got to think of. What other types of taxation are there? Income and corporation. Income taxes, tax on your wages. Yeah. So you've got your national insurance as well, but it's the income tax, your tax on your wages.
It's tax rebate when you get overtaxed. And then
Yeah, if you're on the
take
wrong
that,
code, yeah. So corporation taxes, who said that one?
The tax that businesses have the profit and stuff.
That's the key, but yeah, it's a tax on businesses, but it's a tax on business profit.
So what's tax credit?
Tax credit is a benefit you get rather than them give you money. Because if they give you money, you can spend it on whatever, can't you? If they give you tax credits, they're encouraging you to work. Do you see the difference? They're doing the same thing, but they're saying, well, why give it to you? What we could do is you earn it, and then we'll take less off you. Quite a clever idea, really, in my opinion. Yes, it's tax on profits. So you can see that tax increases, yeah, it's good for the government because then they can spend more money on NHS, but in terms for businesses or individuals, it's not so great. So that's fiscal policy. Look at the objectives. So if they want these high sustainable growth, well then doesn't taxation go against that? If they want full employment, doesn't maybe taxation go against that? The key, in my opinion, to the economy is the interest rates, and this is known as monetary policy. The Bank of England set interest rates, not the government. There is kind of discussion, of course, between the two, but when it comes down to it, the Bank of England set our interest rates. What's the interest rate at the moment set by the Bank of England? 0.5. It's been 0.5 for a long, long time. Does that mean, though, you can go and get a loan for 0.5%? No, if you could, it'd be brilliant. No chance. But the Bank of England base rate is called base rate of interest is 0.5%. What are interest rates, though? Leah, what are interest rates?
When you borrow something, you pay more back.
Okay. So is it always bad?
No.
Not for the world.
No,
For
because
person it is, but for business it's good.
But are interest rates in general always bad? So for us, our interest rates are always bad. What was that?
Yeah, in the bank.
Yeah.
You get money back.
Yeah. The best way to think of interest rates is the reward of saving and the cost of borrowing. In 6 words. Reward of saving, cost of borrowing. So let's see if you can jump a few steps ahead. Interest rates are 0.5%. What is that encouraging us to do?
Save money. No bank.
Go out and get a loan.
Take more money on credit cards.
0.5% is very, very low. It can't go any lower. What they're doing is interest rates are low so that we go out and we spend. We take out loans because we've got to pay back less, haven't we? If you take out a loan, your interest rate's going to be lower than it is if the base rate's 3%. So it's encouraging you to buy things. It's encouraging you to buy a house, a car, go and spend at Christmas. Why are they doing that? Because look at their objectives. They want growth. They want the economy to grow. We've already identified that when we're spending more people are employed. If we're buying more houses need to be built. So you need those builders out there building these estates. And again, it's like when they earn more money, the economy gets more money. So I don't know, they hire a new bar staff at the local pub. They open a new shop in the town centre because the area's got more money because of the change in interest rates, because we are spending more money on houses. Can you start to see how it's starting to make sense? Maybe a few of you started this week, how you can just see one thing knocks onto the next. If interest rates are high, so interest rates have been put up to, I don't know, 7%, what is that encouraging us to do? Yeah? Happy with that? So if interest rates are high, it's encouraging us to save, because we're getting the higher rewards. High interest rates, higher rewards, higher cost. Low interest rates, lower rewards, lower cost. Always go back to that definition, the reward of saving, cost of borrowing. Always think of it like that, because then that will help you when you start to see the really big picture.
And like, they put loads of things on TV about selling gold, because gold's at a really high price, wasn't it? And then like, they wanted everyone selling gold, so obviously...
It's because the price of gold doesn't change as much. You think you've got exchange rates are constantly fluctuating. You know, you look now it's not so bad. I think you can get about 1.1 euro to the pound. But it has been nearly 1 to 1, and it has been nearly 1 to 1.5. Now you think of that for us, going on holiday, it's still a big difference. £500, 500 euros, or £500, 750 euros. That's a big difference, just because of the exchange rates. Think of that for businesses, trading in millions and billions. That uncertainty. But gold has that price. It's much more certain. Okay. Right. Inflation. So we are encouraged to spend. Interest rates are low right now, yeah? So we're being encouraged to spend money. If you're all business people, which you are, but you've got your own businesses, people are starting to spend money. What are you going to do? You're going to put your prices up. If people have got a lot more money, people have been encouraged to spend, so they've got their 30 grand in the bank, and they think this is just ridiculous, 0.5%, what's the point in this? I'm going to go and buy a car. I'm going to go and buy a stake in a second property. If everyone's doing this in the economy, then businesses should think, well, people seem to be spending a lot of money here, let's put our prices up. And that is inflation. Okay, inflation is defined as the year-on-year rise in prices.
Yeah,
And
but the government controls the inflation, isn't it?
they can manipulate it, they cannot control. Inflation, as I was saying, is a natural phenomenon. They cannot change it, they cannot set a rate for it, they can manipulate it.
The
The year-on-year rise in prices and the decrease in the value of money.
What was it, year-on-year?
The year-on-year rise in prices and the decrease in the value of money. So, my parents bought their house for £11,000.
You're serious?
Parents bought their house for £11,000
What?
in 1972.
It's well good.
Yeah. My nan bought a house for 650 quid.
Hey? Are you serious?
This is
Straight
inflation.
up,
This is inflation. This is.
What?
But listen. I know it's quite a shock factor, isn't it? However, okay, they may have bought their house for £11,000. My dad was getting paid 20 quid a week.
Yeah, they get less money, don't
Okay. What I'm saying is, can you see this? This is how inflation. You think about inflation. If you were given 11,000 now, you couldn't buy a house. That wouldn't even be a deposit.
No, it depends.
That would, well, yeah, but probably would. For the majority, that wouldn't even be a deposit. All right, just 2 seconds. But if you took the money you earn now back in time, that would be worth so much more. £650, for those of you that don't know, is basically a month's rent for a lot of people. But yet, say 80 years ago, you could buy a house for that. I remember when McDonald's meals were £2.88. It's the cheapest I remember them for.
Yeah.
Medium McDonald's, but Big Mac meal was £2.88.
Oh my god.
And now it's what, £3.99?
More than
Yeah,
that.
that's
See, there you go. That's inflation. The year-on-year rise in prices and the decrease in the value of money. So what I'm saying by that is, if you had £2.88, what, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, you could have gone and bought your Big Mac meal. If I had £2.88 now, I couldn't get the same worth for that money.
So why can't we lower inflation?
It's a natural phenomenon.
Can't we just lower the prices? Oh.
How we say, can we lower the prices? Who's we?
Businesses.
Why are they going to do that for? Why are they going to lower their prices for? We're going to pay it.
Because the suppliers are still going to charge.
Yeah, it's a exactly. It's a knock-on. Everything knocks onto each other. Inflation is a natural thing. The government try and keep inflation around about 2.5%. That's the government's target for inflation.
I think inflation's gone up on the food though, and it's wages
Is that
are not
2.5%, but it's not. It's been high. Been high. It's been about 4%, 5% for a while.
And what's that? Is that per year?
Yeah, that's how much prices increase per year.
Every year.
Every year.
And the government determines.
Is that when the
No, that's what the government don't determine anything. What they do is they use interest rates, taxation, and spending to keep inflation.
Is that when they like tax petrol and
They tax, yeah, that's one.
cigarettes
Yeah.
and stuff like
Because it's one way of them getting more money for government spending, rather than increase the other taxation rates.
Why do they have to lower their prices?
Why do?
Why do they have to make it go higher every year?
Okay, you're a business. You've got 100 stock. You can make 100 per month, right?
Yeah.
And they're sold every month easily for say £100. So you think, okay, if I'm selling 100 for £100, what would happen if I put it for £110? Oh well, they're still being sold, so I'm going to put it for £110 then. Why would you not?
Because they might not buy them because it's gone up.
They might not buy them, yeah. That's fair. That's called price elasticity of demand. The responsiveness of demand to a change in price. What we assume though is what happens is people still buy.
That's why petrol, because it's inelastic, that's why you can charge high prices.
Because we can't live without it. You can't live without it. We've got so many necessities now. Things have gone from becoming a want to a need. You know, you guys, well, I'm the same, I'll say you guys, I couldn't live without my phone, my computer, internet, Sky. I need those things to survive. I couldn't, the first thing I did when I moved into my flat was sort out Sky. One of the first things I did, I must have Sky. What else would I do in the evenings? If I don't have, what I tell friends, Hollyoaks, I don't know. But it's true though, isn't it? They've turned it from a want to a need. So if, for example, Sky are always putting their bloody prices up. But does anyone change what they buy from them?
No.
No. I've cancelled my movies actually, to lie. Cancel my movies. I know, see, I've got too used to it. You watch sport on normal, it's the green's all crap and...
on 1, 2, 3 and 4
But you need to have football.
HD well.
Anyway, but can you see my point though? Can you see my point? You're still spending even though prices have gone up because it's inelastic and you want it and you need it. Okay? Note down just somewhere the definition of elasticity of demand. It's not so important for this particular section, but when we move on to supply and demand next section, it is important. Elasticity of demand.
How do you spell that?
Yeah.
Elastic, itty.
Elasticity.
Elasticity. That's how you spell it.
But the inflation goes with wages as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We get paid more per year. Not always.
Not as much as inflation,
No.
unfortunately.
But they still have to raise wage. You don't have to.
Don't have to.
Oh.
Employers do it. Employers do it, but unfortunately, more often than not, the unfortunate fact is, if you stay in the same job every year and don't change jobs or get promotion, you're losing money
Why?
every single year.
Why lose money?
Because your pay rise will be 2%, inflation's 5%. You've just lost 3% of your wages because of inflation, because the prices are going up and you're not getting paid the same increase as prices do. The only way to it's unfortunate, the only way to keep ahead of it is to get promoted or get different jobs.
So if you used to change job, then you'd go in at a new...
I mean, when I say change jobs, I mean to a higher paid job.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, so you change, you go up the scale. That's the only way to keep ahead of it.
But
Very few employers, the pay rises are actually as high as inflation.
Well, with inflation, and the employer's higher in wage, but because inflation's gone up every year, they can't keep it up. The salary's gone up like £10 an hour, but inflation's gone up.
Well, of course it will.
Really?
Yeah.
That's saying sales.
Yeah, but then bear in mind though,
Then you
when
get
your
to
sales
invest more.
when your sales are £10 an hour, yeah, your Big Mac will be £8.50. Yeah, everything goes up. What I'm saying is, my dad got paid £20 a week,
We're never on.
20 quid a week, for quite a fairly good job.
For what?
That's how much you got paid in the
How
in the
much were things
70s.
back then?
Well, that's when you had like halfpennies and things, wasn't it? And things were very, very cheap.
Oh, what do you mean back in?
No, so it would have been the same. What you've got to get your head round, right? It would have been exactly the same.
Yeah, but our kids will be saying that. Our
Yeah,
kids will be
yeah.
saying that
They'll
about
be like,
us.
how the hell do you live on £1,000 a month? It's ridiculous. That a grand a month, that will be, what, you know.
What, so is it just going to keep going up forever till it's ridiculous?
Yeah, you know, you
Well,
could look,
how-
you could look forward 1,000 years, and people could be on £1,000 an hour.
Hey?
McDonald's employees on £1,000 an hour.
But
But then you're again. I don't know why I'm so focused on McDonald's. But then your maybe I'm really hungry. But then your Big Mac meal will be 800 quid.
Oh,
Do you see what I mean? Everything increases together. That's inflation.
800 quid.
Prices. This bit, if someone skips into a part of this video, and this is the bit they skip into. It'll be very, very odd. But can you see how inflation works
But
though?
why can't it just stay?
Yeah.
It can't, because businesses want to make money.
Prices
Prices.
go, no, look, the world, England go, no.
The world just go
Don't
no.
do it anymore.
Who's the world?
If you were doing no, then you'd want to earn more money.
It's a natural phenomenon. You can't. No, you wouldn't, because everyone else would be doing it. So okay, what if your suppliers? Let me ask you a question. This is to everyone. If your suppliers put up the cost, they used to charge you £10 per piece of wood to make this desk. They're now going to charge you £11 per piece of wood. Are you going to increase your price by £1, or are you going to make £1 less profit per unit?
Yeah.
You'll make.
No, it depends. Have they written a contract? Have they signed a contract? Because then they can't say, oh,
Well,
I'm price now.
This is out. Not to make supply contracts, are we? What I'm saying is, are you going to make less and less money? Because this will keep happening. So it's increased by £1 to £11. 2 years' time, it's £11.50, and it's £12. And you keep your price the same and make less and less money, or you're going to increase your price. Which you're going to increase your price. You are.
So, like, say there's like a wood cutting company or whatever you get called, logging company, and they have to pay loads for their petrol to cut it all down. They have to sell their wood for more, and then the other people have to buy their wood.
Exactly. There are drivers behind inflation, and that's one of the big ones. Everything is run on oil, isn't it? Everything. That's a really good example, actually. Did anyone hear that?
No.
Do you want to say that again?
If like a logging company like had to pay loads for their petrol to cut down their logs, and then they'd have to sell their logs more to make their money back, and then they'd have to sell their things more, and it'd keep going. Yeah.
Exactly. So it all comes down to then, well, IKEA pay more for their woods, they have to take prices go up, and then also what's known as the wage price spiral. Because if all prices are going up, so we as employees are going to say to our employer, well, you should be paying us more money. Yeah? Would we agree on that?
Yeah.
So everything's going up in price, so we should get more money. So if we're being paid more money, who is paying us more money?
Employer.
The employer. So that means their costs are going up. If their costs are going up, what are they going to do? Put their prices up. If their prices are going up, what are we going to do? Ask for more wages. If we ask for more wages, see? Wages and prices go hand in hand, just spiral.
Yeah, what if business is not massive? They don't really need to put their prices up because they earn so much anyway.
Because they would never do. They always want. They've got shareholders. They always want more dividends. They always want more money.
Government tax.
It's the fact. It's the fact of it. Okay. The economy is a selfish thing. We've talked about ethics and stuff. When it comes down to it, this is all numbers. This is all statistics. It's a selfish thing. Right. So, looking at these 4 objectives. If we are encouraging growth, so we want the economy to grow. We've got that as our major objective. The economy's growing because we've got low interest rates. Yeah. So if we've got low interest rates, we are spending more. If we are spending more, prices are higher. Higher prices go. So obviously inflation gets to a point where we can't afford. We can't afford the prices. So we get to that tipping point. So this is why this is here, price stability. We don't want inflation to be too high. And the government have got interest rates, taxation and government spending at their disposal. Remembering the fact that at certain points in the economy, the effect of unemployment and employment, and how that affects spending, how that affects businesses. So you can see that one knocks onto the next, knocks onto the next, knocks onto the next. what you've got on one of your sheets, the first sheet I think it is, it says during the dot-com boom and during the credit crunch. Okay. So what I'm going to just talk you through are the characteristics. You got a drink?
No, not at all.
The characteristics of the economy at those particular points. So, just skipping back through to this. So during a period of boom, okay, we've got high spending, very high spending. The economy's growing. So you just note these down as we're going through. This is a dot-com boom, yeah? I'll explain what exactly that means in a sec, but it's a boom in general. So, people are spending money. Prices are high. Our confidence is high. Income is high. Unemployment's very low. We've all got jobs. So it's all sounding pretty great at the moment, I would say. So as we're moving up here, everything's brilliant. We've got more money. We're employed. It's all working. But prices are starting to increase. Businesses can see this confidence. Businesses can see we've all got jobs. So they start to put their prices up. So as you move to this peak here, prices are at their highest. Inflation's very high. So if inflation's very, very high, and we are spending maybe too much, what can the government, the Bank of England, do? They can do. What's the monetary policy?
They increase the tax on the product, local product. Interest rates get higher.
Interest rates get higher. So what do the government do? They think, right, prices are increasing way too fast. They're getting stupidly high. How do we regulate this growth? How do we kind of rein it in slightly? Well, we're going to increase interest rates. If we increase interest rates, people, okay, they're going to start to spend less, aren't they? Because if it's increased a little bit, they'll still keep going. They'll get to that point where they think, I'm not going to buy that car, that new house, whatever. I'm going to put that into the bank because the interest rates are getting higher. So if a lot of people do that, well then businesses aren't selling as much, so they lower their prices. Businesses can't afford to keep as many people employed, so unemployment starts to go up, and that's when we start to drag down into recession. That's where recession starts to happen because we've got these effects happening one after the other after the other.
Me too.
Right.
No.
Back in a sec.
Go for a meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
So as we move into recession or credit crunch or whatever you want to call it, there's really high unemployment. Wait, listen, please, listen. We've got really high unemployment. We've got low prices. This is during the credit crunch.
No.
No.
Oh, I thought you put it on phone. Oh,
Okay. So we've got higher unemployment. We've got lower prices. We've got less money. There's less money going around in the economy. Growth's very low.
And this is all because it's happened too quick.
It's because something's happened. They've changed the interest rates too much, or something's happened. Normally something else happens, which is what the dot-com boom
Okay.
is.
Well, because the banks all fell apart.
This is the credit crunch. This is the
Money.
credit crunch. Okay. So, what do the government? So no one's spending any money. So what are the government going to do?
Oh, this is a credit card.
So what are the government going to do now?
Offer you a loan. No.
They couldn't. The government couldn't offer you a loan. No.
So
What encourages spending?
advertising.
What monetary policy? What's monetary policy? Interest rates. What encourages spending? Low interest rates.
I remember like with the price going up, don't like the government have an actual like say of like so they have like their price ceilings and their price walls on certain products so they can't go up.
They try to, but it's only on certain
Like
products.
alcohol, isn't it, and things like that,
Well, they're trying to impose limits, aren't they? They try to regulate, but more often than not, that's the whole point of the free market.
That's it.
The fact is, your businesses have got that freedom.
10 veg used to be like £2.20 and now they look £4.
Remember when I was doing my AS economics,
yeah.
my teacher was saying to me, he can foresee the future where a pack of 20 will be £5. How much is a pack of 20 now? 7, 8 quid.
Yeah.
7.88 for packet 21.
See, and so this was only what 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, they weren't even a fiver. They were like over 4 quid, 4 or 5 quid. That was only 10 years ago. So actually, they've not far off doubled in 10 years.
Well, wages haven't gone up
And wages definitely haven't doubled. No.
Not by 20
I know. Certain things have got more expensive. Certain things increase faster than others. House price is a big one. House price inflation is not 2.5%. Nowhere near that. It's been a lot higher.
Don't understand
It's been up to
this
11%. Pardon?
Don't understand this interest rate thing. You're saying they're going to lower the interest rates.
Mm.
But you don't pay interest on crisps.
But what it's doing is, what you've got to think of the economy as a whole, as a kind of one whole beast, really. If interest rates are lower, that encourages people to spend more money. They may now go, actually, I'm not going to keep that money in my bank, I'm going to go and buy something with it. So it's encouraging that spending in the economy.
How can inflation on food gone up so high?
Pardon?
How can inflation on food and clothes gone up so high? Like
Everything increases in
yeah.
price. The way inflation's measured, you take, say, it's called a basket of goods. You get 100 products or 200 products and measure the price increase and take an average of that.
Yeah.
So some things are not going to go up, some things might go down, some things might go up a lot, and you take that average. So some things might not go up at all, but then other things go up a lot, and it's taking that average between them. Dot-com boom. Okay. In the 90s, the internet was very, very new. It was a new phenomenon. Everyone thought that they could make an internet company and make millions. So there was a huge amount of investment. Share prices for internet companies were going through the roof. They were constantly increasing. People thought they could never lose out. People thought that if you're investing in an internet company, you're creating an internet company, you're going to be fine. Banks were lending money to them, hit left, right and centre. There was a huge confidence. However, suddenly that confidence started to slow down. Businesses weren't making their money back from these internet companies they're investing in. You note this down, Moses, yeah? Yeah? Come on. So businesses weren't making the return on the investment they'd hoped from this investment in something.com. So they stopped investing. They started withdrawing their money. And this was the bubble bursting. The dot-com boom, where this confidence was huge, there was employment, there was high inflation, all the things that I said were the characteristics of it. But then you get to a point where you just can't go any further. And the bubble burst. That's how it was known as. Dot-com boom, the bubble, dot-com bubble, that burst. And everyone was playing it clever, taking money back. People were becoming unemployed here, there, everywhere. And that was the crash. Credit crunch, slightly different. Credit crunch, it was a very different phenomenon. Banks were, again, it's all about confidence. Banks were very, very confident. They were lending money for houses to everyone. They were lending out what's known as 120% mortgages, which, think about that now, is crazy. You can't even get 100% mortgages, near enough impossible. So, for example, suppose that doesn't make sense to you, a £100,000 house, you get a 100% mortgage, you're going to get £100,000. More often than not, you get an 80% mortgage, but so you have to find a deposit of 20 grand. If you get a 120% mortgage, that means your £100,000 flat you're buying, they're going to give you £120,000. They're going to lend you that money. So you're immediately in what's known as 20 grand of negative equity, straight away. Because they had the confidence. They thought, well, that's fine. They'll do the house up, then they'll pay us back with their huge wages they've got. But these loans, it's irresponsible. Irresponsible loan, it was called subprime mortgages. Irresponsible mortgages. Started off in America, and then it spread. And what the banks were doing was, what banks all do, is they sell debt to other companies. So they were selling this bad debt to other companies. So those companies were paying for this debt, so they then collect it. But then they couldn't collect it. So you've actually got all this kind of virtual money, which doesn't actually really exist. It's just people trading in debt and trading in bad mortgages. And so there was no money. So what do the banks do? They go, right, I will loan no one anything. And if the banks don't loan at all, how do businesses grow? How do we buy a mortgage? How do we buy a house? How do we buy a car? We don't.
We lose it, don't we? Repossession.
Yeah, if you don't keep up your repayments on your mortgage, your house can get repossessed, yeah. So that's what happens to a lot of
Haven't
people.
you